morning, everyone. Welcome to Gulfstream today. Ron Nicoletti along with Ashley Mayu, and you can see lots of things going on here at Gulfstream Park. Turf course getting a revamping. You see the Tapeta, the main track. Lots going on. A little construction to the left there. We're going to have a new bar, I guess, situation over there in the Tiki area.
Yeah, the carousel bar. And you mentioned the turf course getting a little love right now while we're running on the Tapeta, but even over the week, the last week, you can see a difference in the turf course, the improvement of it. And weather's been good lately, too. We've been talking about this almost every day. The humidity is starting to hopefully leave South Florida for a little bit and give us a break.
Yeah, it's starting to turn. It usually happens around, what's that holiday? Not Halloween. What's coming up?
Halloween.
Halloween, yeah. I was going to say Thanksgiving. Halloween that's coming up tomorrow.
Yes.
That's right. Oh, it's tomorrow. Yeah, we got lots going on tonight, too. If you look on our website, you can see we've got a big party going on for the kids and for the adults a little later on. So make sure you check that out, GulfstreamPark.com. Fast main track, all-weather Tapeta. Things are looking up. We got $250,000 jackpot guarantee in the Rainbow Six. Couple of pick fives, couple of pick fours, and Ashley's got the early pick five ticket for you right now.
I'm getting tired of being 3 out of 4s in the late pick 4 and 4 out of 5, so hopefully we'll hit this one today. I go 3 deep in the opener. I use the 1, 3, and the 5. I think a lot of attention going to be on the 3 and the 5, but I thought the Michael Yates runner, the 1, congrats again, was intriguing. You can see early money at this point, but favored on the board. My single comes in race 2. I was torn between 2 horses, but with well-defined the way he's been going this year, he's hard to knock. He's made over $225,000. 5 for 9, so I single him in race 2. Race 3, just 2 deep between the number 2, Sister Lou Ann, as well as the number 3, Queen Matcha, both making their second career starts. And then you can see race 4 and race 5, I spread. In race 4, this is a mile and a 16th on the Tapeta, $8,000 claimers. I'll use the 4, 6, and 7. And then in race 5, it's a maiden claiming event, 12.5, the price tag. You know me, always spreading in these races. I use the number 6 back at you, as well as the 8 Lozano and the 9 Palamonium. So I spread there. The single certainly helped me spread in those later races.
Well, you know, that 4th race is really tough. That one, it's a big field and it's tough to handicap. With that said, you know, I had the number 1 horse a little further down. I'm glad you put that on your ticket, because before we came on the air, I was looking back and I said, boy, I should have rated this one higher. Very early in the wagering. I'll start it off with the number 5 horse in here, Double Blessing, who's debuting on the Tapeta. I thought a pair of really solid efforts on the turf against Simla, going 8 and 7.5 furlongs respectively for Kathy Ridfo. Luca Panici, her go-to rider, handling the surface change, just keying off those performances on the turf.
They've been really good performances. Obviously, the turf races from this one have been his best. 3 starts back, he had to race on the slop. He wanted no part of it, but I like his 2 efforts. He's been closing from off of it. Kind of looking at this race, though, I think my one concern would maybe be the pace scenario, but I do think the runners towards the inside may give him some tempo to run out.
You know, as we were just alluding to, the horse you have in second, I'm glad you used this one on your ticket, and that's congrats again. And Mike Yates, I just thought this horse figures in this spot.
Me too. He's jumping up from those 12.5 efforts. The last 2 have been on the dirt, though. They've both been on the board finishes. I think last time I liked the trip that he got better, even though it resulted in a 3rd-place finish rather than 2 starts back. He was closer to the pace, and as I mentioned, the tempo here, the inside runners seem to have it kind of figured out maybe, and looking at the barn, the way that they've been going. Been impressed with their runners all year round, so I use this one in the 2nd spot.
Well, what about the number 3, Creative Choice? He's dropping a level, going to the Tapeta today after finishing, I thought, a workman-like 4th against those 35 maidens, going 7 on the dirt for Joe Orsino. Chantal quarterbacking the combo surface switch and stretch out in distance today.
Yeah, there's that going for this one. I think the concerns I have, the turf efforts, probably not the best from this horse's resume, and then I think the last 2, they've been at the $35,000 level. He's still been well beaten. He's needed to find more. I saw 8-5 morning line. I thought it was way too short to endorse him anywhere on top based on his performances and kind of looking at the others he's going against.
You know, we have the same super and Wicked Moment listed as a gal that makes first starts. Inconsistent campaign at Tampa during the spring, but it's Kathleen. She's pretty solid with the turf to synthetic with a limited sampling. And it's Edwin Gonzalez. You got to use Kathleen somewhere on my ticket.
You have to. It was a change of tactics. 2nd time out. It was also the horse's first time on the turf. Now, there is a bit of a layoff to kind of factor in here. But Kathleen, you mentioned synthetic has been pretty kind to her so far.
Well, let's go to race number 2 this afternoon. First starts up first with 2 pick 4s. 7 furlong starter optional claimer 3-year-olds and up to starter for 16 or less. Or the optional tag at $25,000. And you're absolutely right. Well defined. Fits this condition perfectly. Going to cut back. We're going to go back and show you this horse's race 2 starts back. And this is at 7 furlongs. Didn't fare as well at a mile last time out, but well-defined. It's just so game. And this performance here, of course, trained by Kathleen O'Connell.
Kathleen has done a tremendous job with this gelding, and we kind of look at this effort from him. Obviously, he was favored in this spot, but he had to work for it a little bit to get the job done. You can kind of see out towards the outside some horses closing there, including Chivalry and Pro Quality, and he's still game enough. I mean, they rattled off fast fractions. He's got a ton of backlash, and I think the key thing is, Ron, that was at 7/8. He prefers the 7/8 distance. You can see that from his resume. He's really hard to knock in this spot.
Yeah, 8 races, 4 wins, 2 seconds in the third. As I mentioned, it's his best distance, or one of his best distance. He's just got the class in here. So the number 1, well-defined on top of our ticket. You did go with the number 5 horse in second, Gangly, and this one from the Bobby de Bonabon.
It's a win at the 3/4 distance last time out, and now you mentioned going to the Bobby de Bona barn. I just want to start with the stat here for the barn, kind of looking at the trainer and how he's done first off the claim the past 2 years. 21% in terms of wins, 54% of the money with $1.66 ROI. And this is from a sample size of 52. We know Bobby DeBona does claim a lot. I mean, this horse has had some big performances. He's a 3-time winner this year. He's approaching that $100,000 mark for 2021. I think he'll need a bit more, just knowing that Well-Defined can go to the front and kind of guide things and make the trip that he wants. I think that kind of hurts like a horse like Gangley. But last time out, it was nice to see him back in the winner's circle.
Yeah, and you make a great point with a 3-time winner in the initial level is what you like to see. I mean, got to deal with Well-Defined. It just fits the conditions perfectly. The number 6 horse is who I used in second, Legal Deal, who's dropping into this 25 starter optional claimer. Duel for the lead and faded. That was that 62,500 optional claimer. That was going 3/4 of a mile. Carlos David, Edwin Gonzalez going to ride today. MSCL is going to jump onto Well-Defined. I just thought Legal Deal. Carlos David, I got to have him on my ticket. He's just one of those guys you got to use on the try and super.
I'm glad you mentioned Misael going back to Well-Defined. Didn't pilot him last time out in the Wildcat Aaron. For Legal Deal, disappointing race last time out with kind of the way he was trending. I think when you look at his race 2 back, obviously makes him a player. And if you want to kind of compare him to Well-Defined, he was just behind him when Well-Defined finished second to miles ahead in the early summer months here against starter allowance competition, but still pretty far behind Well-Defined.
Well, the number 4, Ama G6, is making his first start. He failed to fire. That was in the grade 3. Phil Islin up at Monmouth. The trainer, Orby Mirage, ready to gelding for this homecoming. I don't think I've said this a lot of times. The clock must have been busy. 47-1, the best time of 105 horses at the distance.
Yeah, that's a sharp workout coming back to Gulfstream Park. And you mentioned was in Monmouth last time for that grade 3 effort. Has had some time off, maybe getting back to the home turf, home ground, I should say, in this case, with it being a dirt race. But 3 starts back, had a huge effort here at a mile. I think the concern would maybe be the 7 furlongs, only 1 for 6.
Yeah, but that work just jumps off the page. We'll see if he can run to that. 105 horses. That was a busy work day for the clockers. Race number 3 back on the Tapeta at about mile and 70 yards. And these are maiden special weight filly 2-year-olds and a field of 6 in this race. So we'll start with your horse, Sister Luann, one of the horses you did use on your early pick 5 ticket, stretching out around 2 turns today.
Stretching out and also getting onto the Tapeta. The goal you can see here was on the turf when we were kind of wrapping up our turf season on September 24th against maiden special weight competition. Still went off favored, was kind of on the lead throughout and got caught late, finished second, beaten by a length. Now looking at the pedigree on the mare side, Granny McKitten's grade 3 placed 4 for 14 in her career. It was all on the turf. She got about $305,000 in purse earnings. So I think the goal, I mean, obviously turf might be preferred, but I'm thinking that the synthetic will be better for this one than the dirt was.
Yeah, and Safi Joseph Jr. and Edgard Zayas, but what a day they had yesterday. Edgard ended up with 4 wins. Safi had 3, so certainly going to take all the money in there. But what about the 6 Castleborn? Stretching out to the mile and 70 today on the all-weather Tapeta. First starts in threatening to break her maiden in back-to-back turf races before going to the sidelines in August. Owner-trainer Yvonne Belsour has Jose Batista surface switch. If you know what we've learned, it looks like horses that have run well on the turf have been able to translate that somewhat to the Tapeta. And this horse was knocking on the door on the grass. grass. So coming back for Yvonne, and we'll see how this horse runs.
Yeah, the 2 efforts on 2 turns on the turf have been great. Just has needed a bit more ground. Obviously, going to get that today, you have to factor in the surface. But kind of looking at this now, I know you use this horse on top. It's intriguing because I think the case for her, she just needs more ground.
Yeah, we'll see how that one runs there. We basically got the same trot. The other horse that we have is the number 3, Queen Macha, who's stretching out on the all-weather. Seems they rallied to finish second, and that was a good race. Finished second in front of a pair of next-out winners. That was also on the grass. Sammy Camacho rides for Jose D'Angelo. And here's another horse we're trying to see if this one, that was a good race on the grass. Does it look the same on the Tapeta today?
Yeah, and this one was closing from off the pace. You mentioned Sammy Camacho, Jose D'Angelo. They do pretty well here at Gulfstream Park, 23% the past year. The only reservation I had in using this one for second is I think this horse may be too far back. And when you looked at the horses that have raced, I think Sister Luann may be able to control things on the front end.
Yeah, I mean, with the connections, Edgard's going to know where to put this horse. He just, like we said, had a fantastic day yesterday. Race number 4 this afternoon. This is the one I had a little trouble with. A mile and a 16th about on the Tapeta. Claim is 3 or 4 and up. He's a non-wizard 3, 8,000. And I went back to the horse that just won recently with Joe Benjamin. Debuting on the Tapeta, used his speed. He defeated those 10 claimers, going a mile. It was on that good turf from Murat Sankal. Lionel Reyes going for 2 in a row. So I just thought this horse has done something a lot of them haven't done in a while, and that's win.
Yeah, we've talked about this horse in the past. We've had trouble endorsing him, and I think when you looked at this field, he is sneaky in here. We have our top 2 flipped and reversed in here. Got that second win last time out, and it took him a while to break his maiden. When he did, though, he drew clear by 8 1/4. That was first start off a layoff. He went favored in there. He's had some so-so performances since then, but I think looking at him at the $12,500, $10,000 level, he's done quite well in those last 2, so he's a major player.
And the Fall Call Bros, we do have on top, is dropping to the 8 level after making a move for the lead, finished 5th. A little better competition last time out on the Tapeta. This one has a race over the surface.
He does, and I didn't know what to do with that. I think that gives him an edge, but he only finished mid-pack in that race. I will say his 2 prior efforts before that Tapeta race, those grass efforts in July and September, I think they're good enough to win this race.
Well, you made a move into the pace there, and I think that's basically when the Tapeta was sort of playing the horses that needed to be a little further back. It's changed drastically since then. You can win from all angles on it now. So a Call Bros, like you said, we got our exacta flip-flop. I went with Jayha, the 5, who's going to try the Tapeta today. Failed to show much on the Mama Turf, but it's Safi. It's Edgard. Surface switch, drop down. I got to put it somewhere on my ticket.
Yeah, maybe this horse didn't like Mom. If it gets back into Florida with Safi, has some nice drills at Palmetto's, pretty consistent works as well. And you have to remember, the last time this horse raced at Gulfstream Park, it was on the grass, and the claiming price was a lot higher. It was $35,000. So, I mean, you're taking over a 75% cut in claiming price. And he was only beaten by 3 lengths. He finished 5th in a short field, but he didn't miss by much.
And the other horse that you have on your ticket on your try is Farm Strong.
You had to guess this one. I'm a big Diane Marici fan, and I thought his races, he broke his maiden and then came back to win it next time out. Now, his maiden was on the turf, then he won on the dirt in a race that was washed off, and he was close to the pace. I haven't been enamored with his last 2, but we both know they've been tougher races than this group, and I think for that reason, he is sneaky in this spot, maybe for a minor share.
Yeah, this is wide open. When you're looking around, I think if you have a single like you do, you go a little deeper like you also did in this race, and that is race number 4. So that signals to me, and I know to you, that we'll take a break and come back with my Rainbow 6 tiqueta.
Second in the 2-path. Ground on first inside. Race. And a 1/4 mile to go, and he's 6 yards out. It's last of the 12 as they roll into the backstretch.
Welcome back to Gulfstream today. Ron and Ashley. Race number 5 is where we're going to have our Rainbow Six, and it's a 5.5 furlong maiden claimer for 2-year-olds, $12,500. Nice full field of 9 to start the Rainbow Six. Let's look at my ticket. $57.60. Stepped it up this afternoon. Had a little luck yesterday, so a couple of other coins in my pocket. And I just found this fifth race here. I wanted to go a little deep in here, and I'll tell you why. The 3 horse in here, 20-1 on the morning line, on Jet Hair, I think it is. I just think this was first-time starter. I just got a suspicion that this horse might run well. Didn't want to get beat, so 4 deep in that. We'll talk about that race in a moment. 2 deep in race number 6, first of 2 stakes races. The Brethren Juvenile Fillies wide open, but I did go with Lemieux, and yes, I am spiteful. Race number 7, 3 deep. One of those races where the turf race is good, but Isadora Aida ran fantastic on the Torpedo last time out. In race number 8, our other stake race, the Ocala Stud Juvenile, Just Leo, full brother to Grade 1 Forense Fire, who's made a big splash up there at Saratoga. We'll talk about that in a while. And in race number 9, just 2 deep, and my long shot today was Buenissimo, but with the scratch of Plenum, the only scratch in the card, I don't know if we're going to get 6-1 in that spot. 3 deep in the last, another wide open race, $57.60 for me.
I think looking at the races, you don't have my long shot anywhere in your sequence for race 7, and I don't think we looked at the same race 10 today, if I'm not mistaken. I think we're on completely different pages. But you mentioned had a good score yesterday. I still can't believe the Rainbow Six paid that much. It was $813, right?
$813,
So.
and we're talking one. I think the highest horse was like $15 or something like that. So you got to be in it to win it. That's the key here. And we got $250,000 in that jackpot pool. I started it. Don't know if you did, with the number 9 Palamonium in here, who's dropping to the 12.5 level today, returning to the main track with blinkers added, which I like. Failed to make an impact against those 35 maidens, going 5.5 on the Tapeta. Safi, Edwin Gonzalez combo, drop down surface switch. Maybe they just didn't like the Tapeta coming back to the main track today.
Polonium is one of the horses I don't know what to do with, and the big reason being is on debut, he was hyped. He was talked about all over the racetrack. He went off as the favorite. He didn't show anything. And then the next time out, they tried the dirt. And then most recently, Tapeta on the drop. He still hasn't hit the board in 3 career starts. I know the equipment change could be key. I still use him in my top 3. But I thought the price might be short on a horse that was supposed to maybe perform better in those other races.
Well, I can understand using it. I did use the 6 also on my ticket. Becaccia is another going back to the dirt after dueling early. Got the lead in that race and failed to hold off the winner. Went second against those 16 maidens. That was 5.5 on the Tapeta.
I think the big thing for me, getting back on the dirt on the cutback, because the most recent dirt race was going 6.5. This one was part of the pace scenario and actually opened up on the field pretty much out of the gate. Went 22-1, 45-2, and simply was second best in the end. So a lack of distance now, going to 5.5, losing that furlong. I think that could be huge.
And I think you were thinking like me, and I'm sorry to say that, but we both had, thought a first-time starter could run well in here with Lozano. He's the son of Tapizar, debuting for Armando de la Cerda, and I think it's a good spot for a first-time starter. Nothing scares me. Franklin Keller, the jockey, Franklin Kellers, is going to be in the saddle. The apprentice jockey. Why not?
You had to take a stand here, and I think using a firster is just probably the logical thing to do. There's 3 in the field. When you look at works, I think Lozano had the strongest work. Tab had a slew of works, but the last 2 or 3 have been pretty sharp out of the gate. So from a time perspective, that's why I used Lozano.
Let's go to race number 6, about 1.70 miles on the Tapeta for Florida-bred 2-year-old fillies. $60,000 to Brethren Juvenile Fillies. And we both went with Lemieux on top, and debuting on the Tapeta after following our maiden special weight debut. That was going 7 on the at Saratoga. A dual and weekend performance in the mile in the 16th grade. 3 Pocahontas. Spoke this morning with someone. They said that this horse, just got out wide, and Tyler Gaffney wrapped up on her, training well for this. And Mark Cassie, we know how good he's been doing on the Tapeta here.
Yeah, I think he knows that he has an inkling that this horse might be fine on the Tapeta. And I think the big thing is those first 3 races, very solid races under her belt. They're all in New York, too. We know the competition, especially in the summer months, can be tough at Saratoga. A broker made him by 4 lengths at Saratoga. That was going 7 furlongs on the dirt, originally scheduled for the turf. Draw a line through the grade 3. Looking at the pedigree, too, this is a daughter of Nyquist, who's a half to brilliant cunt, who's graded 2 placed in her career. So I think there's some nice pedigree angles. And then you have the Mark Cassie and Edwin Gonzalez factor.
Yeah, what are they? 40% or something like
It's
that.
ridiculous. It's 39% at Gulfstream Park.
Well, a little bit of a price horse in here is the number one. Yes, I'm Spiteful, and we're going to go back and show you this horse's last race. I believe 8-1 on the morning line. This from Joe Kenton. He's going to pick it up from the 3/16 home when Yes, I'm Spiteful rallies to win. I just thought it was a good performance, and you see the surface that they're on. They're on the Tapeta where this is going to be, and I thought this horse was pretty darn game in there. You're going to see the number 5 horse in here, and just comes down and catches, horse at the wire. Who's out straight to go is also in the race, who closes at the end there. I just thought it was a game performance. You're looking for a little bit of a price, and I put this one on my ticket.
Yeah, beat a Mark Cassie runner in there, the pace setter Yukio. And big thing, too, blinkers for the first time last time out. And I think that might have made the difference. Seemed to really handle the Tapeta and move nicely on it, was able to close in there. So I liked that performance. I didn't use this horse. I honestly found about underneath in terms of the exotics. The 3 stood out on top. Different directions to go.
Well, I knew that if there's a fish horse, you were going to use it. In second, you have Fish Mooney, I believe it is.
Yeah, Fish Mooney, the other Mark Cassie. So I'm going with the Mark Cassie exacta angle here. I didn't show anything on the debut, but the big thing is mile on a yielding turf course. A lot of moisture in the turf course. I don't think handled the ground at all. Also, the winner, Opalina, we know traveled to Keeneland to race down there. Had a pretty good performance in that race. And then last time out on the drop, first time on the Tapeta, got a beautiful trip. Was mid-pack early on and circled the field and actually had trouble in that race. So obviously it looks like Edwin Gonzalez might have had his pick. He went with the other runner, but Amisael Jaramillo in the irons for the first time today aboard Fish Mooney.
And we both have in third the number 2 Runaway Breeze, who's the daughter of versatile sire Cajun Breeze. Going to try the Tapeta locally. Faced stakes competition, limited success up at Presque Isle, on their synthetic track. Kevin Rice, he's pretty good with this as his game here. He's 22% with those all-weather surface courses.
And it's interesting, Runaway Breeze after that maiden victory shipped her to Saratoga for a stakes race there. The P.J. Johnson, 7 furlongs on the dirt. Didn't perform well. I think they were hoping for the turf in that case. And then does have that third place finish in the Presque Isle Downs debutante back in October. So she's actually had 2 starts under her belt already this month, but Christian Torres doing the handling. We talked about Kevin Rice. Obviously, his horses, they don't lack experience on a synthetic surface.
No, that's for sure. So going to race number 7 today, about a mile under 16th on the Tapeta. Allowance, optional claimer, fillies and mares, 3 and up. The optional tag is $25,000. You didn't hear us mention any scratches because there's one, I think, in race number 9 today. So did you use Isadorable Ada on top of your ticket?
We'll show the ticket right now for the pick 4. And no, I spread in here. I think this is a wide open race. My top pick is going to be my long shot in here, the number 1 Madeira Wine, who I know you left out of your Rainbow 6.
Yeah.
Also use the 2 Midnight Bella, the 3 Looking Like a Queen, and the 7, it is, I can't even say, is Adorable Ada. Race 8, 3 runners here in the Ocala Stud Juvenile Sprint. Use the 1, 2, and the 5. You've already talked about the big pedigree on the 2. I thought the number 1, Make It Big, pretty game maiden score here. And then in race 9, just too deep, Buenissimo, as well as the number 6, the North Remembers. I did have the number 2, Plenum, but then I bumped in the number 6 into my ticket. And then to wrap things up, I do use some of the same horses now that I look at it. The 3, Uguita Queen, who I think probably going to go off favored, but not enamored with the stats for the Barnes with Maiden's second time out off the long layoff. And I also used the 4, Kizzy, in that race.
Yeah, and the other horse I used was the 10 in that race. But getting back to this race with Isadorable Ada, I want to go back and show you this horse's last race. We're going to pick it up from the 3/16th home when she closes, but just can't reel in the even money favorite that day, All Quality. But I thought it was a pretty nice race. And Isadorable Ada, of course, known here for running on the turf course a lot. This was a good race by this horse, and you could see All Quality. And I kept thinking this horse was going to get up there at 9-1. So you got the even money on the inside, and here comes this horse closing. But not to be, could not get by.
Could not get by All Quality, even money, who I believe had synthetic experience in the past, but it was a good performance from this one. And it's interesting, you weren't getting that price on her 2 starts back, but on the jump up, you did. It's rare that you find too many Carlos David runners at 9-1.
9-1 in that race. So let's hear about your long shot. This is what I'm interested in, Madeira Wine.
Well, we talked about, Carlos David runner, the number 3 Looking Like a Queen's 3-1 on the morning line. But when you go to that most recent race for Madeira Wine, she actually beat Looking Like a Queen, and she was flying late in there. She only missed by a length and a half, and she had to make a move on the outside. Now, it's kind of interesting to see her, too. She broke her maiden on August 21st. They raced her back 8 days later with a pretty big second-place performance. Now she's had some time off since then. We haven't seen her at the races Does have one drill coming into this race, 6 furlongs, breezing on the turf. But I think she's intriguing. The connections, Chantel Sutherland, Patrick Biancone, they've teamed up pretty nicely the last couple months here at Gulfstream Park, 19%. So why not? In terms of figures, I always look at my buyer speed figures. She fits this race.
She fits this race, and Patrick's horse, I don't know if they have a win yet, but I think they're 4 for 4 in the money or something like that, 4 for 6 in the money. What about the number 2? I have in third, you have in second, Midnight Bella, in for the $25,000 tag in this optional claimer. This is a daughter of Midnight Loot, debuting on the local Tapeta, following a string of first and second place finishes up there at Presque Isle. Then was fifth against that 62,500 optional claimers, also on that course up there.
Well, on that most recent race that you see here at Gulfstream Park, Kahiko was the winner. Pretty nice runner out of the Ken Sweezy barn. Only missed by 3 1/4. Now, the race is over the synthetic up at Presque Isle, 5 for 7 in the money. 2 of her 4 career wins have been on the synthetic, the other 2 on the turf. So she's finding herself on her preferred surface. I don't mind her first race here. This is certainly a little bit of a class relief spot for her today.
I think you got a stat on Mr.
Yes,
Joe
I was going to get there. I have a stat here as well for Gerald Brooks. Kind of curious to see his numbers. This is a horse going to cut back just a couple days later, raced on October 24th. So I want to see off that 1 to 7 day between starts the past 2 years, 8 for 32, 25% in terms of wins, almost 60% in the money with $1.39 ROI. So sometimes you think people see this and they're like, oh, that's such a quick turnaround.
Yeah.
But I think some trainers really know when their horses didn't give it them their all in that race and can come back and kind of strike again.
Well, you could see that's a big sampling.
Yeah.
That's not usually you see guys they've done it twice in the whole
And then
career.
never again,
He's done it
yeah.
8 for 32, so very good. So that was race number 7. Our second stakes of the afternoon is on the dirt today. 7 furlongs, Florida bred 2-year-old, $60,000. It's the Ocala Stud Juvenile Sprint in here, and we both went with Just Leo. I sort of tipped it, full brother to multiple Grade 1 winner Firenze Fire, who certainly made a name for himself up there at Saratoga.
Yeah, just a little bit of a name. He's won over $2.7 million in purse earnings. He's a 14-time winner. And I know what you're alluding to. He's a little bit of a savage on the racetrack, to say the least. But Just Leo, on debut, didn't show too much. He was engaged early in the race, and he tired. He had a 17 buyer speed figure. Comes back for the $25,000 tag, and he wins by 11.5. And since then, he's also rattled off another win up at Monmouth Park. His workout's pretty fast as well.
Well, let's show you that race, last one with Just Leo. If we're going to pick it up just from the 8th pole home. How they put this horse with this breeding in a 25 maiden, I'm still trying to figure it out. You and I should have claimed this horse for a 12.5 each. And look at this horse winning here. They didn't know what they have. I don't know, but we'll see how this horse runs this afternoon. And just very interesting with that breeding, being the full. And, of course, trained by Kelly Breen, who trains Firenze Fire, so knows how to get him a win. That was just wide open up there at Monmouth. I guess the horse really to beat in here is the number 1, Make It Big, who certainly ran to his name when he drew clear to win his state-bred debut at the distance. He didn't only win it. He won it by like 9 lengths or 8 lengths or something like that. Safi Joseph Jr., just having a great couple of days. He's had a couple of monster horses, run well. And he's 22% winning consecutive races. White Barrio, was it yesterday? Was so impressive.
That was very impressive. The horse on the front end, and then just found another 2 gears, and just really looked really game in the stretch yesterday. You mentioned the connections have been red hot, but the big thing to look at with Make It Big, it was an easy win overall for this horse. It was going 7/8, so we know the distance. Already checked that off the list today. He probably is the one to beat. I think the thing with Just Leo going to stretch out from 5.5 has had it pretty easy on the front end. Be interesting to see what these two kind of do early on in the race.
Yeah, it's going to be, like I said, very intriguing, the Ocala Stud Juvenile. The other horse we both used, we got the same try here, Lightning Larry, was stretching out to the 7 again. After rebounding from the Chase and Fade performance, that was in the $200,000 firm. He comes back, he stalks the pace, and he edges clear to defeat 75 optional claimers. Tells me that I thought this horse had a touch of class to put him in the affirm. Didn't fare that well. Comes back and runs okay.
When you look at his races, he debuted at 4.5. He was second to Hope and Him, who was kind of the hyped horse. And then next time out, he graduates. He beats Octane, who beats him in the $200,000 Florida Sire 60 affirmed division. He just didn't fire in that race. I thought last time out, it was a good performance. You look at his odds. He was 5-1. The runner-up muted, I believe, was 1-5. The filly tackling the boys that day just because she was such a dominant winner in her maiden victory. It was a good performance from him. He was able to sit off the pace, and he just was the best.
So it's that's the most interesting race on the
Yes.
card. We're going to flip the page and go to race number 9, about a mile and the 16th on the Tapeta. Starter optional claimer 3 and up. Started for 20 or less, or the optional tag of $20,000. Attention, this is the only scratch today. It is the number 2 Plenum, who was 7-2 on the morning line. All along, I had the number 4, and I don't know if you did too, Buenissimo on top of my ticket, just because the move to the Kelsey Danner barn.
Well, that was part of it. You know me, I love Plenum, and I've used that horse way too many times on top, and I still haven't seen that win in quite some time. But you mentioned Buenissimo moves to the Kelsey Danner barn. I thought this was an interesting stat. I want to show this from the formulator. Kelsey Danner, her numbers are strong. Something that she doesn't necessarily do a lot is claim, because this stats for the past 2 years, first off the claim, 4 for 14, 8 for 14 in the money. So you're looking at 29% in terms of a win percentage, 57% in the money. Small numbers here, but she does very well first off the claim. And I don't think it hurts to see Edwin Gonzalez in the irons, because they don't team up often, but they're 3 for 5 at Gulfstream.
And very, just she's 2 for 8 already with the horses going from the grass to the Tapeta right here. So 25%, just another angle in here. I went with the number 7 in second, Just Plunge. 6 for 7 in the money on the Presque Isle Synthetic. Debuts locally after ending his campaign up north with that set the pace third against allowance runners. Going a mile and 70 yards. Gerald Brooks, Jermaine Bridgemahan in the saddle today. I just thought that Just Plunge could run well in this spot.
He's only missed the board in 1 race on the synthetic from 7 attempts, and has just seemed to be kind of there every step of the way. 2 starts back, tried to close from off the pace. Last time out, tried to take them on the front end, and that was at a mile and 70 yards, so a comparable distance to today. We talked about Gerald Brooks earlier. Jermaine Bridgemahan now riding down here. I think that's huge. He has some experience up north over the Tapeta.
And the number 6, the North to remember, is who is I am trying to forget, because this horse beats me all the time. You used it on the ticket. I left it. I know this is the one that's going to hurt me today.
I think he could too, and that's when Plenum was scratched. They said, nope, we're throwing him in that late pick 4. He had 2 wins in a row, both pretty game performances. Now, they were on the turf. He tried the synthetic here on October 15th. Not the greatest results for him. He went off at 5-1. He finished 5th in that 6-horse race. I don't know if it was part of the way his trip panned out for him, because in his other performance he was close in attending the pace. Maybe that's part of it, and maybe he just needed a race over the surface.
Well, let's go to race number 10. We're on the dirt for the race number 10. 6 furlongs maiden, claiming Philly's mastery and up $12,500. You went with the number 3. I believe that's the morning line favorite, and probably the one to fear in here. Yagita Queen, who's dropping to the 12-5 level, finished 3rd behind a couple of next out winners, and that was but it was December, so that was what I started to look around. Maybe this horse might need a race.
There's 2 things here. I mean, you used the 4 on top, I used the 3. To me, these are about the only 2 that I could actually endorse on top and feel confident. The only thing with Yaguita Queen is it is Victor Barboza, 20% on the year, going to get first-time Lasix. Finished 3rd. I think the thing there to maybe highlight is the winner, Our Adios Jersey, undefeated in her career, and then the runner-up, Queen Strategy, was 2nd, graduated next time out. But you said it, that was back in December. We're talking about almost 10 months ago. Not enamored with the Barnes maiden 2nd time out, only 3%. And then when you look at over 6 months, they're only 1 for 7. So it's easy to kind of go with this filly, but it's also easy to turn against her.
Well, the number 4, Kizzy, is stretching out to 3/4 of a mile after rallying in the slop to finish 3rd behind those next out winners, Julie Bird and Defended. That was that 12-5 maiden sprint, move from turf to 5 on the main track. Like you said, just looking for a horse in here. And, I used all 3. I had to use your horse, Yagita Queen, on my Rainbow 6, Kizzy. And I threw in the 10 Sade Purse, who wheels back in 9 days with Victor LeBron. Maybe he can grab a share.
I think with Kizzy, the key thing is coming into this race off her best performance, and the top 2 were next out winners. So if she can replicate that, she certainly figures to be a big contender in here. And then you mentioned the 10 Sade Purse. 4th last time out, that was against better, getting back to the 12-5 level where she's finished 2nd before. This is a tough race, because I think when you look at the field, a lot can happen.
Well, that is how we see the 10 race card. And of course, we're not done yet, because we have our lightning round. And as we do each and every Saturday, let's see what that Stronach 5 paid yesterday. It's always $2,500 or thereabouts. So Laurel was $20. That was it. Everybody else figured.
But when you look at this, yeah, 5-2, $7 winner is the highest paying after that. It's crazy to me that this paid so much money. It was just that one long shot. It wasn't a big long shot enough, though. Kind of made this and probably knocked out a lot of tickets in leg A.
Yeah, leg A, and everybody else just figures it's amazing that it pays that much. I sort of hinted at the fact that there was a really impressive horse here yesterday from Safi Joseph Jr.'s barn, and that's White Abario. And let's just go show you this performance. And I know Ed Gray from our media office talked to Safi, and they got a stake in Kentucky that they have in their mind, I guess at Churchill Downs or wherever. And this horse was so impressive.
I loved the way he just kind of opened up in the stretch, and he really found his best stride late. He found another gear. I know he was 1-5 in that race off a pretty nice maiden score in his first start, but it's interesting to see where he'll go next and if he can keep this going because so far, so good.
Well, one of our favorite horses here that started its campaign here at Gulfstream Park is Latruska, who's probably going to be the big odds-on horse in the Breeders' Cup this staff. Of course, these are the pre-entries, and Latruska has just been fantastic for Mr. Gutierrez, Sofasto Gutierrez, the trainer. And nice guy, was here in South Florida for years.
We talked about this. Would the Classic be the move for the distaff? We said if we owned her, probably the distaff, and I think she will be heavily favored in here. Still some nice horses, though. Malathot, She Dares the Devil, the reigning Oaks winners for both of them the last 2 years, but she looks to be the class of the field.
And as we also alluded to a little earlier, Edgar Zayas, I don't know if he took the lead from everybody else. He was gone for like a weekend, but he had a really nice day. So here's his last winner here of the day, Henry's World, and it's win number 4 for him. So a really nice day and certainly a really nice guy.
Yeah, and he'd been traveling for a little bit. He
Yeah.
went to Remington Park. He went to Keeneland. Now back here at Gulfstream Park. He had a 4-win day. I think I jinxed him after his 4th one. I said, you have one more, right? You can go for 5. And he didn't get 5 yesterday, but 4 isn't a bad way to kind of round out a Friday.
Well, that's how we see the lightning round, the 10-race card, and we're up against it. We got to turn it over to Pete right away. He's got a lot of scratches and changes to give you. One. We'll see you in a little bit.
And they're off. Second in the 2-path. Round on first inside. Race. A quarter of a mile to go, and he's 6 yards out. Last of the 12 as they roll into the backstretch.